Welcome to another off-season edition of Dolphins in Depth. I'm your host, Omar Kelly, Miami Herald columnist. Joining me is Isaiah Smalls. We are probably a week, I think it's a week, before we get to the OTA on-field version of OTA work. Right now, the players, this is the first week they're actually on the field with the coaching staff. So they'll be putting out teases and little videos of guys wearing their pajamas and throwing footballs with no defenders coming at them. It is the weirdest thing to watch an offseason program and really think that you're going to actually make something of it. But that's what they're doing on the field. This is what every offseason program is doing. And Isaiah Smalls wrote a story, and I thought it was cute, about how, oh, man, we are showing up and attendance is great and everybody's working hard and we're working together to bond so we can be better teammates. We're having barbecues and dinners. Isaiah, how much difference do you think it will make for the actual outcome of the season?
I think it, yeah, probably very little, honestly. I'm gonna just keep it a stack with you. I think this is a good start, right? To begin the season, right? You want guys to be around each other, to fellowship.
Why?
Because I think at the end of the day, football is such a violent game, right? You're really in the trenches, right? And so if you have your brother, if you know that you can count on your brother next to you while you're in that foxhole, right? I think
Can my brother play?
That's not the question you're asking me. You're asking me why does it matter? But I think it matters because you want to be able to trust the guy sitting next to you. Now, whether or not he can play is a totally different issue. But in terms of trusting, you want to be able to trust that guy next to you. You want to be able to be like, look, like I have your back, you have mine. And the only way you can do that is just being around guys. And I think from a quarterback standpoint, how guys like the ball thrown to them. There's a few new receivers out there. Nick, that's really the main receiver out there. But at the same time, you got to try to check to see how these guys like the ball in their hands, right? I remember OBJ talking about that last year where he had never played with a quarterback or a left-handed quarterback before, and he was very concerned with the spiral. But, he got out there and, it was okay. His performance wasn't great, but, he realized that Tua could really just put the ball anywhere. So it wasn't that big of an issue.
You know what? I'm not going to say it doesn't matter. I'm always big on skeptical about the things that really matter. But what I will point out is last offseason, didn't we hear the exact same thing from guys like Jordan Poyer and, how we need to bond and be together and the chemistry of the team? Because, if you care about your brother next to you, if you care about his family and his kids and, you go bowling together, you'll play harder. His why, Calais Campbell used to talk about his why. Why is he playing? If you know your teammates' why, it'll make a difference. Well, you know what I'll say, Isaiah? You know what made a difference in last season? Tua not playing 6.5 games. You putting together a poo-poo offensive line, and not being able to run the ball. You getting nothing from your safeties. That really makes a difference. That really contributes to, can my safeties actually play? Or, let's say for 2025, and you know what makes a difference with this season? The caliber of cornerbacks you have on your team. Because if your cornerbacks are booty cheeks, you're not going to get any pass rush. If your defensive line is booty cheeks, you're not going to be able to stop the run, and the pressure is going to be on the linebackers. To me, it really comes down to talent. But I will say all of that stuff is cute. All of that stuff is good. But you know what I care about more? I don't care if a guy trains in the offseason program. And let me tell you why. Because I've known veterans on that exact Miami Dolphins team who knew the days that the media was showing up. And the team basically said, show up for these days. Don't make us look bad. We know you're going to be ready for the offseason. Like, just show up for the days media's here.
Okay.
And that's what they did.
Okay.
You telling me a 10-year? No, we don't have many 10-year vets. You telling me an 8-year veteran doesn't know how to get his body ready for the offseason? How many? Let me find a veteran guy. No, Bradley Chubb has something to prove. Jalen Rand. Okay. Damn, I'm running. Damn, I shouldn't say Tyreek Hill. But yeah, you telling me I gotta use Tyreek. This is a young roster, so it's a little. But you telling me Tyreek Hill needs to go out there and run routes? Yes, it'll probably benefit him from a chemistry standpoint. Damn, I need to find somebody. You telling me Jordan Brooks?
Yeah, there you go.
Needs to be out there running shells of a defensive scheme against no offensive player in an OTA session just because you need to babysit him? Or he needs to lift weights with your supervision? Like, I get it. Players are paid like $1,600 a week for show up the OTA program. If they get hurt outside the facility, going and working on their own at some big place like Bomarito's or XPE or Nick Hicks, the team is not responsible for your contract, homie. So it does benefit you to work out at the facility. But you're telling me that Jalen Ramsey's trained on his own every offseason. Has he been ready for camp or not? You know what I'm saying?
Has. Most certainly has.
And I will say this. When you are in season, your life belongs to the team. That's a stretch that goes from July to January. That you will belong to the team. You do everything the team says, be where the team wants you to be, and allegedly don't show up late. When you are in the off season, you know who you belong to, Isaiah? Your team, your family, your kids. Imagine somebody who has Tyreek got what? How many children?
You answer that question. I'm not.
I don't know if we've ever gotten an official number. But let's say you're Jalen Ramsey, you got 3 daughters. You're not with them all the time. And you want to be a parent. You want to be around for your daughters, in their lives, around doing what you want to do. And yes, I get it. NFL teams, they don't work on Fridays. They show up, they work Monday through Thursday. Cry me a river for everybody who goes to a 9-to-5 job for 5 days a week. Like, they don't leave the facility at 1:00. So you got plenty of time to do what you want to do. But what about if your child is in school in Tennessee or Atlanta or California, and you want to pick your child up from school every day in the off season when you can do it? But, oh no, the team needs you at this facility in Miami because they want to watch you. They want to put their eyeballs on you as you lift weights. Like, and so I've never been a big proponent of, you gotta be here for all the OTAs. This matters. But that's just me. That's
I like your little soapbox soliloquy right there, man. That was good.
I appreciate that. Let's get into what we want to talk about in this podcast. This is an off-season program. Everybody is working on their strengths. What I love about, and we will break down for this episode, the offense. What are our expectations for this offensive team and the offensive players? What I love about guys like Tua Tagovailoa is no matter what you tell him to do in the offseason, whether it's you want him to get thicker, he'll get thicker. You want him to lean up, he'll lean up. You want him to work on XYZ, he'll do that. Whatever the goal set for them, they achieve that. What are the goals that you set for Tua Tagovailoa for 2025 and the quarterback room?
I think that's a great question. I think, in the past it was learning how to fall correctly, right? I think that was one of the big things that, you're laughing, but that was one of the big things. That was one of the big storylines surrounding his offseason program. I think now it's about just decision making, right? I think he makes great decisions with the ball in his hands, throwing the ball sometimes, right? But I think I want to work on his decision making with, okay, play breaks down. There's nobody downfield. What are you going to do, right? And and the reason why I want him to work on that is because, to your point earlier, he missed 6 games in the season, all because technically he, on the one where he got the concussion, he dove with his head, and then with the other one where the guy kind of crunched his hips, like it wasn't like a good, slide, or, what I'm saying? It was just like you're trying to get the first out. And that's why we love Tua, right? Tua is a guy that is going to go the extra mile to win. But as Krisker and McDaniel both told us multiple times at the end of the year press conference, he needs to be available. He needs to stay available. That is the number one thing, right? And I think, that message, as they both said, has been impressed upon him time and time again. And I think he finally now understands it, because you could tell by the way he came back after that 4-game absence, right, that he was pissed, right? You remember that press conference, a very famous press conference. It was what did we say?
Let me die on the field.
It wasn't that dramatic, but that was essentially what he said, right?
If I die, I die.
Yeah. And so, but I think that was born out of a place of frustration. One, he doesn't want to be the poster child for concussions in the league. But then the second thing is, like, he was pissed. Like, there were games that they lost that were very winnable,
and he believes he could have played.
And he believes he could have played, right? And so I think if you go through that multiple times, right? And I just think, not to say that, like, he's gonna be perfect this year, he's not gonna get hurt, because I don't wish him the injuries on anybody, but from what he's shown us before, there will be time in the season where he gets hurt. At least that's based on prior stuff, right? Don't want that to happen, but it's just the reality of the situation. I just want that the absence they have to be limited in scope. A game, 2 games, something very simple. And I think that will be a successful season for Tua.
Let me ask you this question. Do you think the injuries, finger, ribs, hip, concussions, I said multiple, do you think they are happenstance, or they are Tua's just soft and fragile?
I don't like calling another grown man soft or fragile. I don't believe in that, right? So I'm gonna have to say, just off that principle alone, I'm gonna have to say happenstance, right? Now, where you get into where that point kind of starts to fall apart a little bit, right, is when you look at the numbers, right? You see how every season except 2023 he's missed games, right? So I recognize that argument is falling apart there, but I definitely don't think he's soft. Is he a little fragile? Yeah, maybe a little bit, but I don't think he's soft. I think I want to just delineate that now. He is a little bit fragile, but he's not. I don't think he's soft at all.
My it's a very difficult line that when you get to, it's very hard to remove a reputation when you get one. But if you think about it, Joe Burrow has missed the same amount of games as Tua throughout their career, which has, been parallel. Why doesn't he have the fragile reputation? Why?
Because of the success that he's experienced. I think he's reached higher highs than Tua has. He took his team to the Super Bowl.
Okay, well, they had comparable season last year.
Winning solves a lot of problems. And you're right. I think last year is the first year that I think Joe Burrow dealt with that criticism, right? Because they were, there's a few games, though. I mean, if you go back and watch some of those games, like, they were games that they lost last second, right? And, like, that's just rough, right? And the Dolphins themselves experienced that, right? Like, where it's just one of those last things, the Tyler Bass 60-yard field goal, like that last drive at the end of the Cardinals game. Like, there's times that,
Indianapolis,
like, the ball doesn't bounce your way sometimes. And, like, that's just the reality of football, right? But you can never, and I'm going to impress this a bunch. I'm going to press this a lot because I think this is very important, because fans like to boil down these games to one play. Never in football specifically do games, and I mean basketball too, really all sports, do they boil down to, I don't believe that because there's the average football game has like 150 plays?
About 150. No, not you count special teams too?
Yeah.
I would say more like 120, but I hear what you're
Okay,
saying.
yeah, 120 plays, right? You're telling me that one play is going to ultimately determine the outcome of the game. Now, where that argument falls apart, but it's like, okay, well, if that one play is a major injury, right? Like that, of course, is going to change stuff. But like, I'm talking about like, maybe a kick return for a touchdown to end the game, right? There's plays that were made early in the game that you didn't execute on, right? That allowed this to decide the game, right?
Okay, yeah.
And so I say that to say, like, bringing it back to Burrow versus Tua. I mean, Burrow, like I said, has winning solves a lot of problems. If you take and I think the same would be true for Tua.
Tua's one. I'm not even sure. I think Tua might have a better winning percentage than Joe Burrow. I gotta look that up.
Okay,
but I think winning in the postseason, taking the team to the Super Bowl, okay, that makes a difference. And Tua has not done that yet. But I hate this reputation that they're like, and I get it, they're not really in the same stratosphere. But I don't really know why they're not perceived to be similar competent quarterbacks, because they've got the same issue. Tua is 38-24. Let me look at what Joe Burrow's record is. 38-24. Joe Burrow is 38-30-1. Same amount of wins. So Tua's got an even higher, better winning percentage. But
I guess same amount of wins.
But listen, Tua has taken his team to the playoffs twice. Joe Burrow has taken his team to the playoffs twice. I don't know how, we're talking about expectations, and I have a very clear and defined expectation for Tua Tagovailoa, and I'm doing a piece right now on like realistic expectations for every player. My clear and defined expectation for Tua begins and ends with stay healthy for 17 games. And I know the likelihood of that is not high, considering a lot of quarterbacks miss time with injuries. But then there are some, like Tom Brady, who never miss time. Okay? You got to become that quarterback who never misses time. And if that means getting the ball out quicker, great. If that means, and this is what I don't like about what Chris Griff said about Tua, like, you know what will help him be better quarterback and stay healthy and be available? And I know nobody's ever going to say, oh, well, the injuries that he suffered wasn't on the offensive line. If I fear for my life and I have to throw the ball quickly because my offensive line sucks and I can't run the ball because my offensive line sucks, how about you help me? Help me by building me a better offensive line. How about you get to the point where, no shade intended, because I know I'm a shady individual, especially when it comes to Liam Eichenberg. But how about him not being the sixth man on the team? Let's get to the point where the sixth man on your team is going to start half a season. I have never covered a Dolphin season where their offensive line wasn't down to the seventh, eighth man, because that's just part of the game. So, it would be nice, ideal, if maybe he wasn't the sixth man, because right now you're in a situation where he's going to have to play. And I don't think that's acceptable. That's just my personal opinion. And besides that, for Tua, my baseline is,
I just want to
go ahead.
Go. Finish your statement. No, finish your statement, because I'm going back to something. Okay. I'm going back to something you mentioned earlier. Go ahead.
For Tua, my baseline of expectations is play 17 games. I know that means you played every single game in the season, but you've done it once in your career. Do it again. Maybe you might need to thick Tua back. I was a big proponent. I didn't understand the whole lose weight concept. But the thick Tua, stay healthy. Let's get back to the thick Tua. But Tua,
we got to find a different way to describe that. But go ahead, keep going. keep going.
My expectation, I would like to see Tua lead the league in another statistical category. He's led the league in passer rating in 2022. He's led the league in yards thrown for in 2023. Last season, he led the league in completion percentage. do something else. I don't know what, maybe touchdowns, but set another bar. Yeah, set another bar, raise the bar again, so that you make another check mark for all those people who say Tua's not good. Okay, well, he done led the league in pass rating. Only one of, I think it's 3 quarterbacks that are giving you it's like 9 in the career of the game. I gotta look that up. Who've given you 3 straight 100 passer rating seasons? Like nobody's, and all but I believe it was Kirk Cousins are elite on that list of players who have achieved that.
I think it was
milestone.
like Drew Brees. Drew Brees was on that
Tom
list.
Brady,
Aaron Rodgers, I believe.
Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, I did the research and I wrote that story. I gotta dust it off and get back to it, and probably look at who's done it a 4th time, because more than likely Tua stays healthy, he's going to do it a 4th time. So lead the league in some statistical category that allows people to not be able to say, he's just all right. No, he ain't just all right. Like I watch Tua regularly. When he's healthy, he's pretty damn good. Give him some good weapons. Give him some good weapons. You'll see what he does. But what was the point that you wanted to make?
I just wanted to get back to the Burrow versus Tua conversation. You were right. Like, they have the same number of wins, but I just checked it. Burrow has done 40 more touchdowns and I believe 2 more interceptions. So just for,
yeah, damn, that's a lot.
2 more touchdowns.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's the reason why they're looked at a little bit differently, despite the injuries.
Yeah. No. And they've got, I don't even sit here and say that, they got the best young wide receiver in the game, because Miami had the number 1 rated player in the NFL last year. So it'll be interesting, and they both had weak offensive lines throughout their career. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. What are your expectations for these backups? Zach Wilson and what's young?
Quinn Ewers.
Quinn Ewers, yeah.
Quinn Ewers. I mean, I don't want them to see the field. That's my expectation. My expectation is that they don't see the field. That Tua plays 17 games and that they don't see the field.
And if they have to see the field.
If they have to see the field, I need them to play better than Tyler Huntley and Skylar Thompson last year, right? I think this class of backup quarterbacks has a potential to be better than last year's, right? We have to see what Quinn Ewers does. Look, regardless of how you feel. Look, the proof of it is.
Hold on, wait. Mike White got Zach Wilson benched, and his teammates preferred Mike White over Zach Wilson with the Jets.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. That was
we know Mike White ain't nobody special.
I was about to say, we've seen Mike White. I ain't much there, right? Ain't much there. So I'm the reason why I think that they're better is because, look, Zach Wilson's a lot older than he was during that time, right? He was kind of thrust into this number 1, like, you are going to be the guy from day one. And I'm personally am not a fan of throwing quarterbacks into that situation. That's why I'm a little bit scared for Cam Ward, right? Because I don't believe quarterbacks should be immediately thrust into the situation of being the game changer, because at the same time, they have to learn the game, right? The NFL is very different from college. It's very different from college. And so the longer a quarterback has to learn the game, learn the speed of a game, not by being on the field, right? By being on the bench and just watching how the game operates. I think that can only do wonders for you, because once you finally step on the field, you're comfortable, you understand what's going on. And then the biggest thing is that your confidence is still there, right? I believe at one point in his career, Zach Wilson's confidence was killed because of how bad the team played and just what, and didn't have much around him. And he was just, you're going to save us. Go ahead. And I think that that's wrong. The NFL does quarterbacks a disservice by doing that, right? And
Absolutely.
so the reason why I think he'll be better is because look, he's in a system that has produced one of the most productive offenses in the league a couple years back, right? They know how to. Hopefully, Mike McDonough has learned from his mistakes last year, in the sense that like when your number QB1, if your QB1 goes down again, you have to tailor your offense a little bit. You can't expect Zach Wilson to go out there and do Tua Tagovailoa things. We've seen Tua's accuracy. He's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the game right now. Judging by last year's metric, he was the most accurate quarterback in the game, right? So I think you have to change that. You have to tweak it a little bit. It shouldn't be running a whole new offense because your backup quarterback should have been in the lab flipping over stuff, knowing the offense, right? So you shouldn't have to change everything, but you tweak some things that served him a little bit better. So that's why I think he'll be better. I just think that he's in a better system. He's with a coach that believes in him, right? Remember, they said that he was a priority for them. And that belief can do wonders. That belief can do wonders for you.
Okay. Let's get into this receiving unit. And last year was a disappointing season for one of the best duos in the NFL. But let's be real. I hate the fact that people don't believe that Tyreek had a wrist injury that was serious enough to end his season before the season started. The one thing I will say about Drew Rosenhaus, I've known Drew for 20-something years, and Drew doesn't lie. Like, why would he say that if it wasn't real? We know Tyreek was playing through that wrist injury. How much did it impact his season? I have absolutely no idea. But we know he's gone through a long, prolonged surgery to get the wrist better, have pins put in, have pins taken out. I don't know when he's going to be able to get on the field, but what are your expectations for Tyreek when he is on the field?
I mean, I think it has to be better than last year. I gotta say 1,000 yards is the bottom line, right? I think a stack is like that is the metric for skill players, right? On the offensive side of the ball. So I'm gonna say that is 1,000 yards. Like that's the benchmark for me. So I expect that too. And I mean, if we're gonna extend it to Jalen Waddle, I mean, I expect 1,000 yards from him too a little bit. I think these are two of the, like you mentioned earlier, this is one of the best wide receiver duos in the league, right? Like they're up there with Jamar and C. They're up there with AJ and Devontae. They're up there, obviously they haven't played a game yet, but with CD and Pickens, right? Because that's going to be an elite duo, I believe, as well, right? So they had that pedigree, right? And last year obviously was unfortunate. He was banged up, but also Waddle was banged up a little bit towards the end of the year.
Yeah,
and so it hurt their ability. Like that receiving core didn't look elite, right? But the flashes that we saw them, both put up, some good games. Like it's like, okay, this is what we want, right? And that's what I expect. I expect 1,000 yards from both of them this year, for sure.
That's a realistic goal. What about Jonnu Smith, tight end who had a Pro Bowl season? Jonnu contributed, led the team in receptions with 88 catches, and really only came on after the first quarter of the season because he was barely targeted. 88 receptions, 884 yards, 8 touchdowns. Can Jonnu give you more, or do you think that's a good baseline for him?
I think that's a great baseline for a tight end for a tight end in the NFL. I mean, that's a great baseline. Of course, you have the Travis Kelce's, the Brock Bowers, those guys are on the high end. But I think on the tier under them, as he showed, because I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, he had either more yards or catches than Travis Kelce last year, right? So I expect him to stay at the level, if not drop a little bit, and not because of anything he's done, but because Jalen Waddle will be back to being full strength. Tyreek will be back to being full strength. Like they will hit on some of those deep shots that really disappeared last year, right, for most of the season, right? And of course, Jonnu's still going to eat on the underneath routes, right? That really became his calling card, in the last 3 quarters of the year last year. But overall, I do expect his number just to take a slight dip, but not because of his own, not because of anything, not because of any fault of his own, but because
he also got age. He's getting older. I believe he's getting older. 30s.
Yes, he is. I think he's like just a hair older than me. So I think he is. If he's not 30 already, he's turning 30 this year or early next year. So
what about Julian Hill? Do you think he's got a legitimate challenger for that starting spot? In Farrell Brown?
I mean, Farrell is a guy that, to his own to his own credit, something he said is, I mean, he's a blocker, right? I think he's very,
As is Julian Hill.
Very, yeah, I know. As it depends. I'm gonna have to see him when they both get out on that field, right? I think that's something that my eyes are gonna tell me that more than anything else, right? Because to your point, Julian Hill is a very strong guy. That is his calling card. He doesn't really offer you much as a receiver, but when he's out there, that they're blocking, right? That he's gonna be out there, he's gonna hit someone hard and all that jazz. So I mean, hopefully, I mean, maybe there'll be a little bit of a challenge by Farrell. I know Farrell's a little bit on the older end, so Julian still has has him on by an age standpoint, right? But I think God forbid something happens, Farrell can slide in there and provide adequate blocking.
Farrell's 30, so he is definitely age. So John, yeah, he's 30, and Jonnu is 29. So far, I don't know when he'll turn 30, but he's 29 right now. What are your expectations for Devon Achane?
So I liked what he said on during media availability the other day. I think I think 1,000 yards is a good benchmark for him, and I say that because for a few reasons, right? I think last year to start the year, if I had to guess, right, the injuries to Mostert kind of messed up the rotation significantly. I don't think Achane was going to be the bell cow back that he turned into last year, right? Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I just from what they showed 2023 and to 2024, I did not expect him to be that bell cow back, right? And so now I think, yes, I want to see 1,000 yards on the ground. I think the offensive line, with them being healthy, right? I think that'll be that'll be better. Now we'll talk about the drops and everything in a little bit, but I think they should be a little bit better. And so that will bode well for Devon Achane on the ground. I think the biggest thing you have to ask yourself is, one, how much in the passing game he's still going to be used? Is it going to be the same exact way? Because he was, he caught a lot of balls last year, right?
Overutilized, in my opinion.
You said overutilized? Yeah, see, and I think there's a lot of people that would agree with you, right? Because I think he was second in the team, or maybe third in receptions.
Like he was third in receptions with 79 receptions for 592 yards. I'm sorry if you're throwing the ball. I get it. 7.6 yards per carry is nothing you should turn your nose down to. But if you're throwing the ball, it would be nice if it was actually to a wide receiver.
I agree.
And
so I think he could still be productive. I think I would like to see a slight drop in the yards and the catches, but an uptick on the yards on the ground. 1,000 yards, over 4 yards per carry, hopefully, maybe even 5, hopefully. And him, and also I want to see him not being used in those short yardage situations as much, right? I think they got somebody with Mattinson. Just for the sake of extending his career, they got someone Madison. Obviously, they got someone in Ali who's a hard runner. You just kind of got to learn to dip his shoulder a little bit because he runs a little high. But hopefully those guys will help out with those short yardage issues, because I don't like Devon Achane's like 5'5", like him running into that.
He is not 5'5". Do not do that man like that. He is 5'9". He's 5'9". 5'9", 188 pounds.
You think he's really 5'9"?
Yeah, I think he's about 5'9". I'm tall. I'm 5'10" and a half, and I do count my half. Yeah, I'm taller than him, but he's not. I'm not drastically taller than him.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Bottom line is, I think he needs to. I want his career to be as long and fruitful as possible. So him running headfirst into those, in those big piles with those 6'3", 6'4" guys, I don't think is the best way to do that. So get Mattinson and Ali OG in there to.
Don't forget Jalen Wright. Jalen Wright might want to pound the opportunity to pound that rock too. Let's get to the offensive line. Patrick Paul is going to be taking over for Teron Armstead.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a huge question mark because we've never really seen him handle himself in a starting role consistently.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Brewer is probably the best player on the offensive line returning now. That's no disrespect to Austin Clark because he's going to be coming back from a knee injury. He missed, I believe it was 9 games last season. And then you add newcomers, Jonah,
James and Jonah S. James Daniel, Jonah S.
No, I was gonna make the attempt to say the name.
Okay, go ahead, go. My bad.
I am Jonah Savai. Hawaii Savai. Damn. Yeah. Jonah Savai.
There you go.
Damn it. I'm gonna get it by the time we get to training camp.
I hope so.
Jonah and James Daniels should be giving you an upgrade at the guard spot. Aaron Brewer had a promising, productive season last year as a first-year starter for the Miami Dolphins. He started previously before in his career, but this is first year for Miami Dolphins. What are your expectations for this offensive line moving forward?
I mean, I hope that they're better for just the sake of the team. I hope that they're better, but I think the reality of the situation is it's going to be hard to replace a Teron Armstead, both from a leadership standpoint and from the production on the field. Even when he was banged up, he still was giving you
absolutely. He was putting in that work
numbers, right? And so I don't know it. I doubt honestly that Patrick Paul will be able to replicate that from day one, right? I think he will have to build to that. We've seen him a little bit. He looks a little bit leaner, which is good. So hopefully that'll aid his movement and the way he's able to, move his feet, right? I think if I had to 100% guess, I think it will be marginally better than last year. I think Teron Armstead helped save them a lot, but I think at the end of the day, when it ultimately came down to their ability to run the ball, they could not run the ball in the second half of the season. Like it was really bad. You had the Browns game, right? But outside of that, which is kind of was very, very lackluster.
There's a 49ers run and a Browns run that drastically boosted Devon Achane and the team's yards per carry average. But last year, the Dolphins averaged 4.0 rushing yards per game. The league's average, I believe, was 4.2.
Oh wow, you changed the ringer. That's
no. I did change my ringer. My ringer. I am officially off, Mr. West. You sent me. Yeah, you said. I think it was you that sent me that video. Yeah. People. People making their excuses about Kanye, and my friends would joke with me all the time. Man, you got to turn the porch light off. He ain't coming home.
He's gone.
He ain't coming home. And I held that hope. But he's officially not coming home anymore. Like, yeah, like you belong to the streets, Kanye. And in fact, you're not welcome home.
Offensive line. Back to the offensive line. I think they'll be marginally better because they should be better at the guard spot, right? And Austin Jackson being back will do wonders, for the ability to run the ball, at least to his side, right?
You know what's funny about that? And I thought Austin had a very productive, promising 2023. It was not adding up in 2024. Early in the season, I thought he was struggling. Then they got to that stretch where they ran for 150 in like 3 straight games. He was peaking. He was getting his thing done. And then he got injured. I would like to see a better performance, a more stable performance from Austin Jackson, especially now that he is the leader of that unit.
He is 100%.
Him and Aaron Brewer. So, and I'm sure James Daniels. That's one thing I've always learned, and you'll learn this too. Very rarely, if ever, do newcomers show up and instantly become leaders of units. I think Calais Campbell did it.
That's what made Calais so special, I think.
Yeah, I mean, But yeah, when you got more experience than the people actually coaching you, playing, yeah, like you're like older and wiser than the people coaching you. Like, so
Yeah.
what else is gonna happen? But Calais actually has always been a leader and embraced that leadership role. But like for James Daniels, like sometimes you get into a situation like this and you're like, and you know what it's supposed to look like, and you know what the culture is supposed to be, but you show up and you don't really impose your will on the team and your room and your unit because you're not trying to shake things up. It's like you showing up in a new school and being like, "Yeah, I'm the man now. Yeah, all y'all, I know y'all, none of y'all know me, but this is my team now. This is my unit now."
Yeah.
Like, who
Yeah.
does that?
Yeah. That's
Jalen
that,
Jalen Ramsey does it, but yeah, it's very rare that you find that.
yeah.
But to me, and that's the one area where and I addressed this on Joe Rosa's show this morning, and I'll be doing some work with QAM this week and next week. It puzzles me that Chris Greer made a big thing. You know what he said about the cornerbacks? Hey man, we got cornerbacks that we could target in free agency. It's a real good crop out there. Did nothing so far. We got offensive line. I'm all right. I'm not really worried about it. Are you good enough at tackle? Are you good enough at guard? Liam Eichenberg is one injury away from being a starter on your team. Are you comfortable with that? Like, so I would still love for them to add some depth. I have heard people say that they're still not comfortable with the tight end position. I'm like, you can't fix everything. Sorry.
You can't.
Yeah. But I would love to see the team, see them play, so I could I get a better gauge of what they're doing. And next week is going to be that opportunity. This week we are talking to some of the position coaches, and hopefully can create a blueprint for what growth you expect to see from particular units on the Miami Dolphins team. On that note, Isaiah, anything you want to announce? Anything you want to say? My condolences to you and your uncle. For passing. Any fond memories that you have?
Yeah, I mean, so he used to. It's interesting that you bringing this up here. One of my fondest memories. I have two. Right, there's one where when I first moved down here, and he took me around the city. That was fun. And then just I'm gonna miss on Dolphins whenever they played because he had a food stand at Hard Rock, and so I'm gonna miss. Remember what I used to say, like, yeah, I'm about to go get some food from my uncle. I'm gonna miss that because like I always enjoy just chopping up with him before games.
Which one was his food stand?
Seeds. It was called Seeds. It's like on the third floor, first level too, and then I think in the bowels of it, like the what's it called, like the suite level, on the suite level too. So I'm gonna thoroughly miss that. Definitely praise out to his family and whatnot, his immediate family and whatnot. But yeah, it's definitely a difficult day in this household. So I appreciate the condolences for sure.
Definitely. All right, folks. On that note, we will be back later this week to break down some of the things that we heard from your position coaches and your coordinators. And then we'll also be back with the Dolphins defensive breakdown in terms of expectations we have for the 2024 Miami Dolphins. On that note, Dolphins Adept, we are out.